the Happy Hour podcast with your host, Joel Fleischman.
Hello, Kevin Hancock. How are you?
Joel, my friend, it's great to see you. How are you? I'm good.
Very, very good. Thank you. Welcome to Joel Fleischman's Happy Hour podcast, remote version, episode number 31. I've got a Schlitz here made in Milwaukee.
I've got a Stella in my hand. Cheers.
Cheers. We're making it through this. So I often start podcasts by, hey, who are you a little bit? And you're probably good at your elevator speech, but then what's our connection? How do we know each other? So do you want to take both of those?
Sure. It'd be my pleasure. So you and I, of course, are connected in the lumber industry. So I'm out in Maine, and our company, Hancock Lumber, is one of the oldest family businesses in America. The company goes back to 1848, and I'm part of the sixth generation of my family to work for the company. I'm the CEO. And we're an integrated forest products company. So we own timberland and we grow trees. And then we have sawmills and we manufacture lumber that we distribute throughout North America and the world. And then in Maine and New Hampshire, we've got a series of contractor lumber yards, and we've got about 600 people at the company. And I've known you now for a long time, it feels like, in a great way, just because of the amazing, innovative, people-oriented lumber company that you help lead. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about how we've been connected.
Yeah, and for those I'm assuming one or two people will be watching this from Maine at some point. So a little bit about me and our company is, we go back. I think we might have met at our team, leadership team is on a round table, or was on a round table. We're no longer on part of that, but and we met through that company, through that firm, as we got to know each other. And it's got to go back 10 years. One of my favorite dinners of all time was you had your team down in Charlotte. Was that North Carolina? Was that New Orleans? Or was that North Carolina?
We were in the Big Easy, Joel, which was
right?
a treat to be with you there, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's my memory slips sometimes. So that's great.
Yes.
It was one of my favorite all-time industry dinners. I'll always remember that. It was a true connection. So I appreciate that. We are also about 600 people. We are not fully integrated with mills, although my dad has grown some trees and sold them to a mill that we don't know for a fact came back and that we were able to use, but we'd like to think so. A pretty big mill called Beaver Lumber here in Wisconsin. But we are integrated in the fact that, just like you, we have our truss plants. And now recently in the last year, we're doing off-site construction, which means we provide the labor on panelization, or we call it off-site construction, and framing packages. So we're doing pre-built stairs, pre-built floors, pre-built walls with the windows in them, trusses, and we do full turnkey framing packages. And we are taking it from foundation through the top of the roof, including the windows, in 4 days on many homes right now. So that's kind of the innovative stuff we're doing. But that's a little bit about me and our company here at Drexel. So welcome on. We could talk about a lot of things. A little bit I want to talk about is you've wrote some books, you've done some things. A lot of it goes back, and just so people know this, not trying to adjust their audio, is you do have a voice influx, or is it a disease? Is that what you call it? Or
Yeah, well, I have a little known neurological voice disorder called spasmodic dysphonia, which I acquired back in 2010 at about the peak of the national housing and mortgage market collapse. I'm convinced it was stress-induced, Joel, but it's turned out to be one of the biggest blessings of my life. So what started as a liability or figuratively just a pain in the neck that made speaking difficult actually ended up bringing me a lot more gifts than it took away.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Are you familiar with Inky Johnson? Do you know Inky?
No.
Inky was on a path to he was on a path to the NFL, and I know you're a sports guy as well. He played for the University of Tennessee. He was a first-round draft pick. Mom raised him. Classic sad story of the mom, no dad, and just outworked everybody. Out hustled, small guy, 5'10", and he only had about 3 games left. And he said, "Ma, I made it." And he got hit real hard in a game, and he lost. He couldn't use his arm, and he gives the speech kind of like, "No offense, doctor, but I'm playing in the NFL." And they're like, "No, you're not." And he went a very God-facing guy, very spiritual, and he said, "I get it, God. I got you." And he's like, "God, you have bigger plans for me. I'm not supposed to be in the NFL, but I'm supposed to go help people." And he's a wonderful motivational and public speaker. So when you said that, I thought of Inky, because I just love that when we think we know what the Spirit and the Lord sends us, or what our vision quest is, as you might say. But sometimes, there's bigger plans, right? The plans we don't know are even bigger. So that I'm glad you started that way. So you have, so let's talk a little bit. A couple of things I want to talk about is where are you guys? I mean, I haven't talked about the pandemic and COVID on my podcast in 6 months, which feels great. But I do have to bring it up because we've had some crazy, interesting news in the last 7 days. Where are you guys at in Maine? Are you pretty much open for business, mask-free normalcy, if you will, or where are you guys at?
Yeah, we're almost there. Maine actually somehow has the highest vaccination rate in the nation. We've done really well that way, and we're within days of ending all of the masking requirements, which I know our people across our company are really excited about. It's been a long time coming, and super hard, of course, on many people in many ways and many industries. And the lumber business has been fortunate to be one of those industries that ended up getting busier as a result of the pandemic. So any industries, of course, just got went the other way. So we've been fortunate.
And you are masked at work right now?
Only inside our stores. Everything outdoors in Maine now is unmasked. Okay. And all our manufacturing facilities are unmasked. But public in the stores, we're still wearing masks.
Yeah, Big Bad Drexel, we did not follow our state mandate, and we only masked up if the client requested it. So we were masked at work for about 3 hours. And I read our governor's mandate that said government employees and the government's office was exempt from wearing a mask. And I said, well, if they're exempt, we're exempt. And we went fully exempt from that 3 hours on. So a little leadership tool. If you give people really bad news once a year and then give them really good news 3 hours later, they tend to love you and adore you for a little bit. So I said, I'm gonna give out really bad news, like we're wearing full suits and ties to work on a Friday, and I'll just reverse my decision on Monday, and then it'll look like I made a really good decision. So, but interesting on that front. Lead time. How are lead times issues by you guys? I can maybe speak first. I-joist is our number one hang up. We are literally don't have enough. We're probably getting about 80% to 70% of what we need on any given week. Not nearly enough to survive this. So we're switching people over to floor trusses, making them wait. We're bringing in a 3.5-inch flange and a much higher price point. That's our number one. Cabinets now are 12 to 14 weeks, and many other things, sidings, lumber, everything's been tough. But I-joist was the one that actually, the first time ever, we had to tell clients we can't give your house start on time. I've never had to do that before in 30 years. How about you guys?
Yeah, similar. lead times have expanded pretty dramatically in a variety of product categories. But really, at the end of the day, one thing I love about our industry is it's always in flux. It's never quite the same. And if you want to be successful in our industry, you've got to be pliable and adaptable. And so everybody in the supply chain, our art builders, their customers, and ourselves, we've just had to adjust our planning process, right? So it really just comes down to communication. And if everybody gets on the same page, you can make these lead times work. It's really, you've kind of always got two choices. You can kind of complain about what's going on, or you can just roll up your sleeves and try to adapt and get good at what's actually going on. So
are you talking about your voice, or are you talking about the industry? So
well, I'm talking, right.
Have you always been this positive? Were you born that way out of the womb? Did you have a light bulb moment? Was it something that's just come with wisdom? And as the Stoics would say, like Marcus Aurelius, they know you just read a lot and you continue to learn and become more positive, or what do you base your positivity on? And have you always been like that, or was there some story behind your positivity? Because even I think I'm the most positive guy in the industry. And then I talk to you and you're like, well, it's just communication. It's just, we can just, because we're always in flux. And that was wonderful. It's exactly what I needed to hear today. So thank you.
Well, you know, it's a great question. I mean, I've always been positive, but I think I've become more positive over time. But the root of it, Joel, I think is really interesting. I've really become very focused on what I can control. And I've really tried to not exert my energy on all those things I cannot control. And when I found that when I oriented myself that way, my life got a lot easier. And so I really do not get caught up in things I can't influence. And I try to put my energy into what I can influence. That being said, too, I would say I'm a perennial optimist. I tend to always see the good in people, and I tend to always see the good in situations. I wouldn't say I'm naive, because I know there's a lot of difficulty, lots of challenges in this world, lots of things that aren't what they should be, but I do tend to wake up and see the opportunities and the light, or focus on the light more so than the darkness.
That's awesome. That is really good. I think everybody can own that. So control the controllables is a wonderful thing. I have very few things posted on my office, and one of them is control the controllables. So I will say that you are one of the only people probably in the world, right, that helped to lead a 600-person organization in a somewhat vertically integrated building supply company. So we're two pieces, in a close pod. And so thank you for those wise words. Having said that, I'm amazed every day, and I just told that to somebody yesterday. It's amazing at our company, and when I started, we had about eight people, like 8. And these days, how little influence I can have. I can have the best idea in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or want to change something because I was mowing the lawn on a Saturday morning, and that this is it, and how difficult, correctfully so, I shouldn't be waving my magic wand and people waiting for me to dictate to them. But it is interesting. I think people think that you and I probably have more authority to do what we want within our organization. And I know how you guys are set up, than you probably do too, right? I mean, it's very difficult to start the vision and then actually lead it and do it overnight, probably like you used to, I assume, like myself when you were much, much younger, and probably much more naive. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, I love that topic, Joel. My voice condition really reoriented my leadership approach. Prior to that, I was very much a traditional leader. I was at every meeting, presiding over conversations, first to arrive, last to go. And then suddenly I got hit with this disorder, which was much worse then, and I couldn't really talk. And when you think about it, you're a CEO, what's your tool? It's your voice. And suddenly I couldn't use it. So what do you do when you can't talk? Well, it gets really simple. You listen. And my big skill for protecting my voice that I acquired was to reverse a question. So you'd ask me a question, I knew I wasn't going to be able to give an answer. So I started saying simply this: Joel, that's a great question. What do you think we should do about it? and that was my approach around the company once I acquired my voice condition. Now, after doing that for months, something really struck me. People already knew what to do. They didn't actually need direction from me 99% of the time to begin with. They knew what to do. What they really needed was the encouragement and the confidence and the safety and culture to trust their own voice. That's when I fundamentally changed how I thought about leadership. And I said, historically, leadership's been about collecting power into the center. But what I'm going to get into is pushing it back out, distributed power, shared leadership. And what if we could create a work culture where everybody led, which is really how it is done, and where every voice was a leading voice of the company. And once I flipped that script, my job got a lot simpler. It was to keep promoting that approach, that culture, honoring all voices. Leadership got easier because everybody was doing it, and the performance of our company took off. This was the other cool part. We just started doing better. And so counterintuitively, the less I was doing as the CEO, the better we performed. And really, when you think about it, it makes perfect sense, because everybody in our company, every single person at Hancock Lumber knows their specific job better than I do. And to really try to create a culture where it is safe for people to just go, make decisions, trust their own voice, lead. That's when work and leadership started to get really fun for me and different. And really, too, something that's not just about building a better business, but really about advancing humanity. Because what you're doing in that case is you're really helping everybody in your company self-actualize, come into their own voice, gain power. And those are not lumber things, of course. Those are life things.
So yeah, you hit it, and you got. I mean, I just was listening. Yeah, for sure. When I'm at my very best at meetings, these old big ears God gave me, I'm just listening, and I'm helping them speak their true voice and guiding the conversation if I need to. A few potential coaching moments, but when I'm at my best, I'm pretty quiet in the room. Again, the opposite of what you think, as people think. So that's always for wise words. You have a few things, I think at somewhere in your life, and I don't know, even since I've known you, I feel you have found a higher calling to literally attempt in some way out of Maine, the United States, the state of Maine, to change humanity's leadership style. So there's a couple of things that we want to touch on besides just the lumber industry. I at this point in my life, I'm 47. I'm trying to get smaller. You're trying to get broader. So it's just the calling, which I adore. So I'm trying to go microscope. You're trying to go telescope. So you have a website. You have a weekly email that I follow. You have a book coming out. This will be your third book. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I hope so, because I've read the other two. I really enjoy your books. You led me down a path recently, or somebody that I don't know if you personally did, but I've read a whole bunch on the Black Elks. I've always been called, to some degree, before I met you, to Native Americans, and specifically the Lakotas. And then I met you, and I'm like, are you kidding? There's another guy like that? And I've learned a lot about that culture, which is super unique. But I don't know what. I know this is kind of your opportunity to roll out some of your humanity issues, and we brought you on here to get a bigger voice here in Wisconsin, and the other 4 people that listen to this podcast, maybe 5. But go ahead.
You touched on the on Black Elk and the Lakota tribe. So the other half of my story, shortly, a couple of years after I acquired my voice disorder, I somewhat serendipitously began traveling from Maine out to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in the southwest corner of South Dakota, which is the biggest, poorest, most isolated, and historically disenfranchised of all the Sioux reservations on the Northern Plains. It's a place I've now been over 20 times. Here was the connection. There I met an entire community that felt as if a piece of their voice had been taken or marginalized. And I put my own experience together with theirs and said, wow, there are lots of ways for humans to lose some of their voice in this world, their authentic self. And then I got thinking about leadership and concluded that probably across history, leaders have done more to limit and restrict and direct the voices of others than to liberate them or free them. And that's when I had this epiphany that my own voice condition wasn't a liability. It was actually an invitation and a gift to try to create a different leadership model, because this was something I couldn't just think about. I was running a company as a CEO, and I could actually take these ideas and deploy them, which I'd spent an entire decade doing, and saw what it did to our performance, but most importantly to the employee experience as defined by the employees. So having done that, I'm now really trying to invest some energy in spreading that leadership approach, that distributed power approach, which I've been building out, as you referenced, through my website, which is called simply the Business of Shared Leadership.com. And I really believe the 21st century, the Aquarian age, this is the age of distributed power. Think about it literally. Think about how energy was created and how it's going to be created. Think about the internet. Think about the access to information that all humans have. We're really, I believe, wanting to move into an age of shared leadership, but our leaders who have control of institutions have been slow to adapt. We're still too often stuck in that old collect the power to the center mode. And this is where the disenfranchisement, I believe, is coming from, because humanity is wanting something different. Everyone is wanting to come into their own voice. And advancing this, for me, Joel, is what I talk about as the higher calling of business. I mean, we're really into lumber, but that's not our mission. We're really into logistics, but that's not our mission. Our mission is to help everybody in our company come into their own true voice. And this might sound corny or idealistic or oversimplified, but how does humanity advance? It advances one human at a time. So where's that work got to take place? It's got to take place not on TV, not in a distant capital. It's got to take place on a local level. And where do adults hang out? They hang out at work. Adults work. And so the place of work is actually, I think, a bit of a hidden prime conduit for advancing humanity. But it takes thinking a bit differently about the highest mission of a place of business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our mission, we say, is to supply happiness. And, we talk about serving, loving, and caring. And yeah, I mean, I've said many things that I say when we do our shoe, which is our first day at Drexel, Supply Happiness University, and I get the first hour to meet our newbies, is we talk about having fun at work quite a bit, which a little bit is about having your own voice. And
Yes.
why are we taught in our society that you can't have fun at work? You're going to be there 2,000 hours a year, 10,000 hours in 5 years. It's just bonkers that, again, you said it's almost a hidden gem. Like, we try to get better in maybe physically, emotionally, spiritually, but then work is work. Work is work. And in our industry, specifically, I think nationally, we grew up work hard, play hard, which really just meant work 90 hours a week and then once in a while party instead of sleep. I don't think it was. I actually came around. I used to actually say that a lot. Work hard, play hard. That's the Drexel culture. And somebody said it's actually a culture killer. Work hard, play hard. And it's actually true. It's like work up to the point of burnout and then just have a bunch of beers. Like, yeah, I get that. So no, it is so true. People having a voice, and I go back to even sports. And you were a basketball coach at one point in your life, and I was too. And it's so important to give that why behind it, that action and that benefit, and to be a listener. And because when somebody buys into what they do and what I think God uniquely made them to do, and they find that right career path and that right vocation, and that could be sawing for you in a mill, that could be building a truss, that can be doing anything. But your why is so much more important. I think the leadership thing comes down to how we're taught. That always goes back to something there. I think you loosely mentioned it, but I do think it goes down to power and control. I think there's a fear of letting go. And then I really haven't referenced the pandemic in 6 months, but I even see that right now, right? I mean, well, if I let you guys all in a mask, and if I take care, no one's going to need me anymore. And we're back to normal, and my power's gone. And I hate to use that because I know it's a very hot topic. I know that makes me sound insensitive, but there's a power and the control of a leader. And you've been through that in 2010. I've been through that at some point in my life. I know you have done, I'm sure too. I've had many leaders that have had darn near mental breakdowns because of that less leadership. They'll grow into their position. They'll form a team around them as our company has grown. And all of a sudden they realize they don't have day-to-day duties and tasks. And then it's the opposite of what most people think. They feel useless.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think, because they're not hard driving, running every meeting, running every topic, having every idea, that now, hey, I'm useless. And I'm like, no, you're at the best version of yourself. And they're like, well, this is kind of fun, and it shouldn't be. And I'm like, no, that this is. So I do think you're actually empowering two people when you have your mission, Kevin. It's the leaders. Because I mean, we work with I'm sure you know a lot of business owners and leaders like I do, and spouses and families, and a lot of them have burnout and are not in a good place mentally. So the leaders burn themselves out not knowing that. And I had a guy named Ken Wilbanks. You probably know Ken a little bit.
Yes.
Industry stalwart. He sat me down over a glass of scotch one night and he said, you're really running hot. You're really a hot guy, and I'm like, I got my Superman cape on. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm the hardest working guy in the industry. And, he said it real slow in a Southern drawl and said, but you're singeing everybody around you. Your fire's so hot. You're burning everybody you touch. And he was absolutely right looking back. And that was quite a few years ago. And, you just got to calm down.
Right. Yeah. I love everything you just talked about. Joel, another way I think about that is it's really for leaders about transcending ego. When I was younger, I couldn't distinguish between myself and my role. Like how I validated myself was to perform in my role. And that's really a terrible trap. And it's a selfish trap. And my voice woke me up from it. Our company is way, way bigger than me. And it's not about me. And once you're able to come into your own identity and lose the ego in your role, the role gets so much simpler. It's just about helping people at that point, helping to set the right tone, the right culture, make it safe, make it comfortable. And then you just, I don't want to say get out of the way, but it's close. It really comes down to trust. And I do think we're all tired of bringing up the COVID examples, but I think it's a really powerful one. I mean, how does a virus spread? It spreads one human at a time. So no matter how many central government officials make pronouncements about COVID, what's it come down to? Individual human judgment, individual human responsibility. Fighting a virus is the ultimate endeavor in dispersed power. That virus moves one human at a time. And it is just so much easier to trust people than to not trust them, and to feel like you need control because there can't be trust. It's just not a winning path. It is so much easier to trust. And when you place trust, well, what was the quote I saw the other day that I loved? The best way to learn to trust is to trust. That you just take that leap. And I can't remember the last time I was disappointed at work because I trusted. I literally could not come up with a single example. I trust everybody at our company.
Right, and if you don't, somebody needs to have a conversation with them. We maybe just didn't hire the right person at the right time for Hancock Lumber, right? I mean, that's just and I go back to the virus. I think that control thing was so important that we learned as a society. And I think in the 2021, it made it much worse than in even 100 years ago or 500 years ago, is that we think we are in control as humans now. We have all the science, we have all the computers, we have all the technology, we have all the knowledge. We will stop this virus. We can do it. And I'm like, we're not in charge of this crazy circle spinning around. And the more we tried, the more we looked foolish, didn't we? Right? I mean, the more we really did. Even when I said follow the science, and I'm like, well, which science? What science? People are just trying to be in control of the virus. And again, it's human interaction one at a time. There's things that are just completely out of our control. But Kevin, we're going to run out of time real soon, and we haven't talked about any of your books. We haven't given you. I'm a horrible podcast, interviewer here because I'm supposed to be promoting your books, and I listen to enough pods. We got to work that angle. So I'll just be blunt. I got to get to your books. You got a book coming up. So tell me about your 3 books, and I'm really excited about your 3rd book. I've read all 3 of your books, or 2 of your books. I loved your first one the most, but that spoke most to me. But go tell me about your books.
Sure. So my first book came out in 2015, and it's titled "Not for Sale: Finding Center in the Land of Crazy Horse." So that chronicles my first 6 trips to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation when I was really kind of spiritually searching for my voice in a place where lots of people didn't feel heard. Then last year, my 2nd book came out. I happen to have a copy here. This one's called The 7th Power: one CEO's journey into the business of shared leadership. And it's a bit of a travel learning book. It starts on the Navajo Reservation, Chapter 1 in Arizona, and ends up in Kiev in the Ukraine. And 7 stops, 7 lessons about distributing power and sharing leadership.
From your perspective, your actual nonfiction, true story perspective, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I never leave this county that I live in, Wisconsin. So I was so jealous reading the book. I'm like, this should be a reality show. I was like trying to live through you. If I travel 30 miles, I feel like I went on a journey. So it was great. It was a great book.
Yeah. Then my third book just came up for sale on Amazon like last week. It's called 48 Whispers from Pine Ridge in the Northern Plains, and it's a collection of photographs I took on the plains, accompanied by 48 meditations, short meditations, one on a page. Each one's 248 words in length. I play off the number 48 because Black Elk was guided on his great vision by the 48 horses of the 4 directions. And so I play off that number. But this book is about self-inquiry. It's about heightened self-awareness. It's about coming into your own voice and really turning inward to find your personal power. That you change the world first within you, that reverberates to the people beside you, and that ultimately impacts the world beyond you. But in a chaotic world where there's so much external distraction on TV, on social media, politically, this book is about getting back into yourself and recognizing that you are the light and you are the path and you are your power and you have your own personal mission to find and follow. And the world changes when we change ourselves from within. That's what this book really is designed to honor.
They're your pictures?
Correct. I took every picture with a $200 camera that fits in my front pocket. It drives my mom crazy because she's got like this $5,000 camera, and mine was just a little thing I'd stick in my pocket. So
I think these are even more powerful. These little
they're becoming that way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So, no, that's really cool. A couple observations on that. You mentioned it, and when you were saying it, I was going there. Be the light of the world. I say that often, right? So that's in the Bible many times. Be the light of the world, and you were saying that, and then I often go back to Mother Teresa of just saying, hey, she said, do it in the smallest waves to make the biggest impact. So again, you're going a bit broader, which I love because everyone's called differently. And I read Mother Teresa, and I like to change the world, open a door for somebody.
Yes.
Right? Do the smallest detail, littlest things, and that'll make the biggest impact. Because the person you opened a door for, you made them smile and made their day better. They went to work in a better mood, and that changed somebody else's life. And if you have, again, one human at a time, as you would say, right? And empowering those people to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah. So on that note, Joel, I get looking at that topic in this book. If you look across all the world's great religions or spiritualities or indigenous faiths, this truth shows up time and time again, the one you're speaking to. Gandhi said it as well: become the change you wish to see. It shows up in every faith. That is the path, but it's so easy to get stuck in what's out there. I work with a really cool spiritualist friend from Palo Alto, right outside of Stanford. She's right out of Central Casting. She's perfect, but she always tells me, Joel, she says, get back in your body and stay there. And so I'm really focused. You asked me about this earlier. Once you acquire that orientation, the entire world changes. I can see the chaos. I can see the problems. I can see what change that's required. But where can I go with that? I can only go within and try to become something different. And when I change, that is how the world changes. And once you realize that, everything starts to liberate, and clarity comes in, and it's actionable.
And don't add to the noise. That's you don't need to add to the busyness and the noise of the world. It's the opposite. That's the devil speak. That's the the evil forces, whatever you want to call it. That's the confusion in the world right now. We're trying to get better, and we're trying to read self-help books. And we're trying to, and I got to do this, and my kids got to be in youth programs, and I got to do this better at work, and I got to get back to meet this guy in lead times, and I got to take care of this problem, and go to all my meetings. And and now you're a better version of yourself. It's really contradictory to anything that you think. So I appreciate it. Well, I could talk to you forever. I'll give you the floor for a minute if you have a question for me or something you want to wrap up with, or I have a question for you to close. So you have the floor. What did we miss in a few short minutes here? I could talk to you all day.
What I really want to do is just say thank you to you. I have been inspired by you since the first time I met you, because of your authenticity and because of your independent, authentic, unique self. You really have self-actualized, and I don't know maybe if you realize how powerful that is to others. You just, by the way you carry yourself, give others permission to be their own unique human being. And I've loved watching you insert those values into a big, competitive, growing company. So you've been nice to have me today. You've been nice to ask me questions today, but I'm really a super big fan of yours, and I think you're amazing exactly as and where you are, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I think people have said that to me before, asked me the why behind that. And Raina, who she runs a Blue Door coffee company that we have that gives all their profits to charity. That's part of Drexel, but it's a wonderful coffee shop. And she said, Joel, I've never met somebody who doesn't care at all. She goes, you don't care at all if Blue Door coffee shop closes. But I never met somebody who cared so much, because you can walk in and saying, hey, Raina, those coffee mugs need to be moved 2 inches to the left because it's kind of a distraction to the clients. And she goes, it's amazing. But I said, that's true. And maybe because I never grew up wanting to work at the lumberyard, I don't totally care. I'm always like, if I do something else, it's going to be okay. So not being afraid to fail maybe is what you feel when you feel that I'm being authentic. Like it's going to be okay. If I fail, it's just who I am. But thank you very much. So thanks for having us on. Now, the last question that I ask everybody, I'm really curious your answer, is we always ask, you have one giant billboard. You can put anything you want on it. It's your billboard. We've had people say a piece of art, something funny, motivational, whatever it is, your quote, somebody else's quote. What is that billboard? What are you saying to the world, and why? I know what it's going to be about probably, but I don't know what it is.
I love the question. Here's what I put on it. I put a question on it, and it would simply be this. What if everybody on earth felt trusted, respected, valued, and heard? What might change?
Wow, that's great. I mean, we've explored that, but do you want to expand on that a bit, just why that is?
Yeah, if I were to answer the question, I would say I think everything would change. If you look at the root of all human challenges, humanity's challenges, I think they stem from people not feeling trusted, respected, valued, heard, and safe. That's the root of it. Everywhere you go on this planet, when we have something less than what humanity should be. And for goodness sake, our leaders of organizations could orient themselves around the pursuit of that ideal. To your point, businesses will rise and fall. They'll come and go. But while you've got it, use it to do something valuable. And my use it is I'm going to do my best to use our company to be a place where people feel trusted, valued, respected, heard, and safe. And sure, that will enhance the performance of our company, but that's the outcome of a higher calling. And I think that that we need to get on to the higher callings. And when you get on to the higher callings, performance tends to take care of itself. It's just an outcome of adding value to people's lives.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you so much. I love you to death, man. You're a good friend from afar. Someday I want to come out and shoot those little, as you guys would say, those little moose in Maine. Maybe lobsters at Kenny Bunkport, but we got to do that sometime, okay? And you taught me something really wise before we got off. I invited you somewhere to do something, and you said, "Wouldn't that be fun?" Which is one of the things I constantly always use. That is not we're going to do it. And that is definitely not a no, but it's definitely not a yes. So we'll look at this. Wouldn't that be fun, Kevin? Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be so much fun, Joel.
That's fantastic. All right. Take care, my friend.
You too. Thank you so much. Be well.
Best of luck. Yeah, you too. Bye.